There you go. So, hello everyone. Today I am here with King County Council candidate, Joe Cohen. So Joe, I'd like to thank you for joining us here today. Joe has agreed to answer a few questions for us so that we can get to know him better. And so the Chamber of Commerce has created a list of questions that we feel important for businesses to know how Joe feels about certain issues going on in King County. So Joe, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Okay, great. I'm going to just jump right into things. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to give us an idea, we have 5 questions. You'll be given 2 minutes to answer each question. And at the end, you'll just have another couple more minutes that I'll ask you just to kind of share maybe some things that weren't asked today that you would like the business community here in Issaquah to know about you and what's important that they think of when they go to the polls.
Great, that sounds great.
All right, so Joe, our first question today is, please describe the qualifications and leadership skills you will bring to King County Council.
All right, well, so my name is Joe Cohen. Again, I'm running for King County Council District 3. A little bit about myself. I'm a third-generation Washingtonian. I live here in Issaquah, and I grew up in Bellevue. I went to public schools here on the east side, including Interlake High School. I'm an attorney, and I practice telecom law, where I help companies understand and comply with complex government regulations, whether it's state or Federal Communications Commission. This is an area of law, as you may expect, that is constantly changing with all the innovation and government trying to keep up with that innovation. So in my practice, I've been fortunate to have been able to represent a wide range of clients, from small radio stations with 3 employees to large publicly traded technology companies. And as a result, I've helped companies of all sizes through challenging circumstances and really understand the challenges companies face, that they can be quite different depending on their size and their business. My background also includes quite a bit of government service. That's where I started my career. I worked at the U.S. Department of Justice, where I led government oversight investigations, mostly into the activities of federal law enforcement agencies. For example, I earned multiple awards for my work to understand and prevent correctional officer misconduct at the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I also worked on Senator Maria Campbell's legislative staff, where I focused mainly on transportation issues and criminal justice issues. I also worked in the Obama White House on issues related to drugs and addiction. The reason I'm running is because we are facing many unprecedented challenges right now, and I want to apply all of my experience, both in the public and private sector, to help solve those challenges.
Great, Joe, thank you. Very impressive. All right, our next question is just really trying to figure out how well you know the county and the region. Simple question though. Which local and regional organizations do you see as being the most beneficial to leveraging your position during this election?
Well, this is a very large district, District 3. It stretches all the way from Lake Sammamish to the Cascade Mountains. So there are a lot of really important organizations and groups and constituencies. The size of the district means that it's diverse. Type of people who live here are diverse. And the businesses that are here are very diverse, from large publicly traded companies to small businesses with just a few employees. So there isn't just one economy here. This is especially true given the pandemic, which has impacted businesses differently depending on the size of the business and what industry it's in. So for example, some of the larger companies in our district have bounced back, but others, particularly small businesses, have been hit hard. And they're going to take more time to recover. This is kind of, you can kind of see this in the disconnect between the stock market and small businesses during the pandemic. The market's up and small businesses have been devastated. So if you think about it, this district is a microcosm of really what is happening across the country in this regard. It's also a microcosm of what we're seeing in terms of different perspectives of people who live in rural areas versus those that live in more urban communities. And as a result, it's really important that this district has someone who represents the entire district and the unique interests of each community. Part of this is not being easily swayed by whoever happens to be the loudest interest group at that particular moment, not having knee-jerk reactions. This district really needs someone who's able to look at the big picture at all times. Being able to do that comes with experience, being able to have the confidence in your analysis of the issues to push back against vocal opposition. And my close to 20 years of experience in the legal and policy worlds will certainly help with that. And really, at the end of the day, it's about putting the interests of the people you represent above anything else. And that's what I'll do.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Okay, our next question is about transportation. And of course, we all know transportation is a major concern for everyone over here on the east side and all over King County for that matter. Transportation on the east side continues to be a major concern for Issaquah due to the tremendous growth planned in Bellevue and the rest of the region. What would you do to help get vehicles off roads and create better options for commuting instead?
Yeah, so my hometown of Bellevue has certainly grown, as has the east side in general. And with all the projects companies have planned for the east side, we know that our area will continue to grow in the future. I can see the cranes every day in Issaquah right here. So with this economic prosperity, though, and growth comes challenges, and trafficly is certainly one of them. It's not a new problem for the east side, but the issue has intensified as many cities here have changed from becoming places where people live and then commute into Seattle or to Boeing or elsewhere to places where people come and are commuting to. Redmond and Issaquah are prominent examples in this district, but it's really the case all over, especially as housing prices continue to rise and many people who work on the east side commute from other areas. So investing in transportation alternatives is incredibly important to allow people to forego getting in their car and instead use something else, whether it's a bus, light rail, or non-motorized method, such as bikes or walking. So given my personal experience, I know how important it is. I did not have a car for over 10 years as an adult and relied on public transit to get to work, law school, and really everywhere else. So I place a real high value on convenient and reliable public transportation. And the light rail is really important to this conversation. It's going to come to Overlake in 2023, downtown Redmond 2024, Issaquah 2041, hopefully. We need to make sure that the Redmond light rail station is accessible to everyone who wants to use it. Downtown station is going to be the end of the line in Redmond, but we really need to make sure that access extends well past Redmond and into the surrounding areas. This means having regular shuttles and buses to get people to the light rail. And also investing in non-motorized forms to get people to the light rail, biking paths, walking paths, and things of that nature. These trails are excellent. The East Lake Sammamish Trail is one of my favorite examples of this.
All right, thank you, very good. Okay, our next question is still related to transportation. And again, due to our growing transportation needs, what would you do to first reinstate Metro Transit that has been lost in Issaquah? And then what would you do to increase Metro Transit from the southeast side of King County to Issaquah?
Yeah, so as a result of the pandemic, Metro had to make some tough decisions. The county had to make tough decisions on bus service. And it has been doing a good job of reinstating some of that service. Still need to get back and also increase bus service. You know, bus service wasn't one of the things I touched on in the last question, but it is certainly a part of it. And we really need to increase the frequency of bus service in particularly in densely populated areas. So based on my personal experience with riding public transportation, there's a big difference between a 30-minute wait for a bus and a 15-minute wait for a bus. If it's 15 minutes, you don't have to plan your schedule around the bus times. You just show up at the bus stop and catch the next bus. If it's 30 minutes, you really have to put some planning into it, and you may not even bother with it at that point. When it comes to South King County, Southeast King County, there's really not many good options right now getting from, for instance, Maple Valley into Issaquah. And we know there's a lot of commuting that takes place between those two places, Renton as well. I mean, you can just walk down Front Street during commuting times, and you can just see the traffic that takes place there. So having bus service that goes from Southeast King County through Issaquah is really important to hopefully we can get rid of some of that traffic on Front Street and other parts of Issaquah where people are coming through, and creating additional options for people. It's really important. And I think with this, it's really about bus service first.
Okay. Great, thank you. And yes, we agree. All right. Our last question for you today then, Joe, is if you would please take the 2 minutes and briefly explain how you would work with our regional partners to ensure that the funding and implementation of the I-90 under overcrossing continues and continues it along with the partnership with Sound Transit. You had touched on Sound Transit earlier, so.
Yes, and it's, I touched on Sound Transit. The light rail is scheduled via Sound Transit 3 to come to Issaquah in 2041, but there is a multi-billion-dollar shortfall with Sound Transit right now, and we need to make sure that we prioritize that Issaquah station. You mentioned the growth of the east side and Issaquah and the surrounding areas. We need to make sure we have that light rail because by 2041, you can just imagine the growth in this area. And it's really important to work with all of the different partners. So I worked on transportation issues at a time when the 520 bridge replacement was in doubt. I worked for one of our US senators at that time. And it takes collaboration at all levels of government to secure that funding. And there's going to be an infrastructure package, hopefully at the federal level. And we really need to work with all elected officials and people in the community, business community, to push for that funding to go to Sound Transit so we can finish that light rail. With the I-90 under overpass, this is an incredibly important project because, as we know, in Issaquah, I-90 splits our city. And this presents a lot of challenges, particularly on the valley floor. So it creates these traffic bottlenecks when you're trying to go to the other side of town. And as we grow, traffic's going to get worse. We need to be investing in these transportation projects and to divert traffic away from, particularly with this project, divert traffic away from some of the other crossings for local transportation, local commutes and cars. It's expected to cost $80 million, with about $70 million coming from the federal government. So again, I'll utilize and harness my experience at the federal level to make sure that our congressional delegation knows that this is an important project.
Great, thank you. Yes, we feel it's a very important project here in Issaquah. Okay, so Joe, that's all the questions. So you can kind of relax a little bit. But again, I'd like you to take a couple minutes and just talk about the things that are important to you. We didn't get to cover a lot of territory, so I know there's probably other issues that you want our listeners to know are important to you and to our community.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity to just speak on some of these issues and why I decided to run. And some of them are related to some of the big challenges, in addition to transportation, that we have right here in our community and in King County overall. So the homelessness epidemic and crisis in our area is incredibly important to me. As an attorney, I've focused my pro bono work on representing low-income families facing eviction and obtaining improved housing conditions for families with children with medical conditions. So it's really frustrating to me to see the lack of progress on this issue. homelessness emergency was announced 6 years ago, and things have only gotten worse since then. We also had this plan to end homelessness that started in 2005. It was a 10-year plan, and after those 10 years were up in 2015, homelessness was at an all-time high, and of course, it's even worse now. So that is one of my priority issues, is to really bring some accountability and some progress to this issue of homelessness. Another one of the issues that is really important to me, given my 10 years of experience in it, is criminal justice. And so having worked at the US Department of Justice, in Congress, and the Obama White House on criminal justice policy, this is a big issue, and it's really important for King County because the King County Council has jurisdiction over the budget, and 3/4 of the budget goes to criminal justice. So it's really important to have people with experience in criminal justice, and we're going to be appointing the next sheriff and setting the duties of the King County Sheriff's Office. We really need somebody to really represent the East Side loud and clear as we kind of enter this new era of law enforcement.
Thank you, Joe. Those are also very important issues. Well, so I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and getting to know Joe a little bit better. Primaries are when?
August 3rd is the primary deadline, but there's a 3-week voting period prior to that. So you're going to get your ballots August 15th. Excuse me, July 15th.
July 15th. I know it's coming up soon. So this allows all of us to get to know you better before we get our ballots and we get out there and vote. And we'll hopefully be back together after the primaries for another round and getting to know you better, Joe. So I'm going to go ahead and end the recording for our guests here today. I thank everyone for tuning in and listening and getting to know Joe.
Thanks for the opportunity, Kathy.
Thank you.